Everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about leveraging IVAs with your existing systems and how that can fund your technology refresh and/or migration to the cloud. This podcast series is brought to you by Athena Solutions, helping companies to launch technology with success, and PolyAI, a leading provider of engaging and lifelike voice AI for unbeatable customer service automation. My name's Chrystal, LeWark, and I'm a managing partner and technology advisor at Athena. And
I'm Stephen Fine. I lead the value consulting team at PolyAI. We build enterprise-grade voice assistants that sound and act like your best agents.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for joining us today. So during the first segment that you and I had, we talked about how preparation is so critical to avoid common pitfalls, what information that teams should be collecting, across their organization in preparation for the initiative. And that, for folks listening, that recording is available on our Athena Solutions LinkedIn page if you missed that initial one. But today, what we're going to be focusing on is really talking about how companies, like PolyAI providing these IVAs can leverage your existing platforms. And so, I guess my first question for you, Steve, would be, and we've touched on this before, but, can you talk about how important, how companies can leverage those existing systems and how PolyAI helps them to do that?
Of course. And also, I'm very happy that we've now moved to you calling me Steve. It's a step in the right direction of our relationship. Yes, so with several of our customers and had or have on-premise contact center software, so from the likes of Avaya, Cisco, or the older generation on-prem Genesis that's now no longer available. But we can still work with these, right? Because we can via an SBC, we can use SIP, or via the PSTN if necessary, right? We can do that. It's just you lose some functionality, but we do that for clients as a stopgap between them moving over to usually some sort of SIP-based communication. And with that, then customers are really able to implement the IVR replacement and start implementing Poly without having to commit to this huge contact center CCaaS transformation, right? Which is a really big hurdle. So they can get in front of that IVA transformation without having to make this huge move to the cloud. Mm-hmm. And in situations where we're reducing the number of calls, there's often a very clear relationship to reducing the number of seats required to be offered to agents. So there's this saving that the companies then are able to make before making that move, so that they actually don't need to overcommit the number of CCaaS licenses, right? Because they need fewer licenses. They actually don't, when they make the move, they don't need to overcommit. And the other thing I just want to kind of mention around that is, this is a really great way to reduce the risk when you shift over and you have this cloud migration. And a lot of that's because clients have built up not IVAs, but they've built up these IVRs over a long time, and they're often quite complex. And just shifting to a new system and having to build it out from scratch is often very, very scary. But what we're able to do before they make that transformation is build out the IVA. And then as they move over to that cloud platform, it's like flicking a switch, and they move over to the platform with all the risk reduced that they know we're going to be able to integrate with the new cloud platform. And it's really just a much more seamless move that everyone feels a lot more comfortable with.
Yeah, no, totally. All great points. And we found that with a few of the projects that we're working on now. And so through a project, what would you advise a customer of, like, which integrations that they should prioritize?
Yeah, so it's a really good one. And it's funny, is often you see clients looking to go for the most complex integrations because they feel that that's where the kind of most value is going to come from. But we always kind of like to look forwards and then work backwards from what the most valuable solution and most valuable use case is likely to be, right? And where that needs an integration. Because then what you're really going to do is you're going to look at the higher value use cases, and value being driven largely by complexity, repetitiveness of calls, and ease of integration. Right, we're going to look back from that use case and work backwards on which of those we should go after first. So often what we'll do is we'll choose the highest volume, kind of lower complexity use case first, make sure we build out the integration for that, then make sure we do that successfully, and then each way we kind of take out a piece from the from the overall big integration, and it just makes it a little bit less scary. And the one I really like, and it's because it's fundamental often to being able to do more self-service within the IVA, is we do some sort of integration with a CRM or whatever we need to verify and authenticate customers. And the reason for that is we choose that as a great starting point because firstly, we know if they're doing that manually today, there's a lot of work that can be taken away, and frankly, really not fun work, like just verifying people. We can take a lot of work away from agents in that. But the other thing is to do a lot of the work and, with more advanced use cases, you have to take someone through that ID&V process. So it's, if you think of it, it's like kind of this gatekeeper to doing a lot of more complex integrations and use cases. So we always like to think that that's a really good place to start.
And why do you think, why is it so important? You and I know the answer to this. I'm asking it for the audience, right? But why is it so important to integrate the telephony, CRM, knowledge, payment systems, and other with the IVA?
Yeah, so I'll break it into two. First, I'll talk about telephony, and just basically the obvious answer to this is without us integrating to telephony, there's no call for us to help on. There's no call for us to answer. So we have to be able to receive calls from the customer. So I think from a telephony, that is really, really important. We also want to be able to send caller intent data back into their CRM or whatever their platform that they have and where they keep and store that data, because we want to make sure that then we can pop that through when we automate a portion of the call. We really want to make sure that we give the agents the best experience. So what's really important is we want to send them context of the call within the telephony, within a subheader, it'll usually be. And then that's able to then provide some sort of a screen pop to agents, gives them context so that they can bring down handle times and increase their first contact resolution because they know why people are called in. So I think that's like broadly the telephony side of things.
Yeah, and a much better customer experience, right? Because, then the customer can be addressed more personally, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you know who this customer is, you understand what they're coming in there to try get done. So it becomes a much more personalized and swifter experience. And frankly, I think no one really wants to sit on the phone forever. Like everyone wants to get these things done quickly. So if we can support and aid agents to provide a smoother and better experience, the customers win as well. And I think it's always important to think of the stakeholders as customers, business, customers and business, right? Like it's not just about the business. It's not just about the customers. Then I'll go on to the second part that you spoke about, CRM, knowledge bases, payment systems, all these other systems. And I'll just kind of like classify all of these as the rest of the system that the voice assistant or IVA has to access to provide customers with service, right? Without access to these systems, you're not going to limit the scope of how much you can automate. You're also going to limit the service quality that you can provide. I think the reason for that is personalized service and getting things done requires you to go into some sort of system, access information, use that information to then provide an answer, right? Or make a change, whether it's updating a payment, details, it's updating their address, it's rescheduling an appointment. Like all of these things require you to go into these back-end systems and then make decisions and do actions. Without that, like really you miss out on the huge value in the transformative side, where you can drive real call reduction and handle time reduction, but also really focus on providing a much more seamless customer experience, because you don't need to transfer as often. So I always just say more integrations is better.
Yeah, better and results in IVA resolving more contacts, right?
That's what we have for.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, thank you for, talking, sharing that information with us today. Thank you, audience, for joining us. Watch for our next podcast, which we'll be posting on the Athena page. And also the recording of this one will be available there as too. Hope you all have a great day, and thank you again for joining.